Tanse, good afternoon. I'm Chris Nachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. The Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation in North Dakota celebrated this week with the return of one of their members. After 49 years in prison, Leonard Peltier was granted clemency and will serve the rest of his double murder sentence for his role in the deaths of 2 FBI agents in 1975 while at his home. T.R. Wheatley was at his welcome home celebration and has this report.
A grand entry and honoring nearly 50 years in the making for one man, Leonard Peltier, a well-known member of the American Indian Movement, or AIM.
Something I didn't do.
Thousands of people from all over the U.S. and Canada came to the Skydancer Event Center on the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation in North Dakota. Fabian Hurd traveled from Bemidji, Minnesota.
Well, my older sister, she was an activist. I mean, I never did understand what AIM was about until I grew older. And so that's what brought me here today, welcoming Leonard home.
Even Terry Nelson from Rosal River in southern Manitoba, an AIM activist, made the trip.
Happy that he's going to end up at some point in a Sundance, which is going to, that's the spirituality of our people is still there.
For Jer Peltier, it was a chance to meet his great-uncle for the first time.
This is really important for the community, but on an international level, on an international Indigenous political level, this is, a really big deal. This is, again, something that has been advocated for so long by so many people.
Peltier had hundreds of cameras on him all day long, from media to regular people and their cell phones to an entire documentary crew headed up by Jane Myers.
And I think as Native people, the way that we were 30 years ago, 40 years ago, even 25 years ago, we didn't have this A game. And we didn't have filmmakers that were making films and that were behind the helm to tell our stories from our point of view.
Myers' documentary called Free Leonard Peltier aired at the Sundance Film Festival. She plans to add his return home to the film. Myers says he's in talks with 4 major companies for distribution. Because of this, Peltier was not doing interviews with news networks. Peltier went to prison for killing 2 FBI agents in 1975 on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. He and many others in Indian country maintain he was locked up based on false evidence. While he didn't get a pardon, he got clemency last month by outgoing U.S. President Joe Biden, with poor health cited as reasoning for him to serve out the remainder of his sentence on house arrest. During the homecoming, organizers reminded spectators all day long to give Peltier space for his immune system. Turtle Mountain Tribal Chairman Jamie Azure was amongst Peltier's support letters for clemency. Azure wasn't born yet when Peltier was sentenced.
Leonard Peltier's name was almost a character in a book for most of my life until this leadership position. And now it's almost like bringing characters to life and really sitting down and saying it's a real person. And he really did go through these things.
A figure that many here, including 17-year-old Kurt Fleury, only learned about in school. He's come to show support and wants to talk with his fellow tribal member.
Ask him how it felt whenever he got sentenced and how those people made him feel.
There are some, including the FBI, who believe Peltier shouldn't have been granted clemency, as well as those who believe he was complicit in the circumstances surrounding fellow AIM member Annie Mae Pictou Aquash's murder, who say they can't support someone who condones violence on Indigenous women. But for those at his homecoming, they didn't let those concerns dampen their spirits. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
One day after Saskatchewan RCMP arrested a 15-year-old boy and an 18-year-old man in connection to the quadruple homicide in Carry the Kettle, Nakota Nation, the chief of CTK said they are organizing an upcoming band meeting to address the issue. Chief Scott Ashapi has requested the community to attend a band meeting on March 1st, where CTK leadership will discuss its housing policy, a drug bylaw, house parties, and the recent 4 deaths in the community. Chief Ashapi thanked all of his community members who provided information to the RCMP, saying he knows it was difficult for people to come forward when many in the community were scared for their safety and felt threatened. Chief Ashapi also thanked the RCMP for working around the clock and said that he appreciated the RCMP's home visits and calls that led to the charges. In a statement, Chief Ashapi added, "Our nation has suffered in the last 16 days not knowing if anyone would be caught for these horrible actions. We will let the justice system deal with the actions they brought upon themselves, and as a nation we will hold our own band meeting to discuss our safety and take direction on what has to be done to ensure this never happens again." Chief Ashapi says the RCMP investigators will remain in CTK in the coming days to continue their investigation. An Indigenous organization's building in northeastern British Columbia was recently targeted with racist graffiti. Now, both BC's Indigenous Relations Minister and the City of Fort St. John are denouncing the vandalism. The racist graffiti was spray painted on the Treaty 8 Tribal Association office building in the city of Fort St. John last weekend. The graffiti depicts a number of swastikas and profanity that targets residential school children who never made it home. BC's Indigenous Relations Minister Christine Boyle said it's important to stand up against acts of hate and that Treaty 8 is, quote, a critical part of BC's work to advance reconciliation. The mayor of Fort St. John, Lilia Hansen, said the vandalism was unacceptable and said there is no place for hate in his city. The Jewish human rights group B'nai B'rith Canada also said that the incident is another stark reminder that the Nazi swastika represents the worst of society. Earlier this week at Saskatoon's Court of King's Bench, an Indigenous medicine man pleaded guilty to the same charges of sexual assault for a second time. CTV's Laura Woodward has more details.
63-year-old Cecil Wolf leaves Saskatoon's Court of King's Bench, pleading guilty to a dozen counts of sexual assault while working as a self-proclaimed medicine man. The victims in this case are Wolf's patients. They turned to him for traditional treatment. According to the agreed statement of facts, Wolf told his patients to wear skirts to their sessions. He would then inappropriately touch them. Court heard the women were afraid to speak out because of his status in the community. Wolf was considered a highly respected elder. He was employed by the Saskatoon Tribal Council and White Buffalo Youth Lodge to perform traditional rituals and ceremonies. The Crown says Wolf exploited and abused his position of trust and authority. He was first charged in 2021. He pleaded to the charges in 2022, but the guilty pleas were erased. A judge ruled that Wolf only made the pleas on the advice of his lawyer, and he didn't comprehend the consequences. This time around, the judge was meticulous to ensure Wolf understood what he was pleading guilty to and the jail time that would ensue. Quote, "I need to make sure that you're not doing this just to get it over with," Justice John Morrell said. In the end, the judge found the pleas to be valid. A sentencing hearing, which will include victim impact statements, is scheduled for March 26th. Laura Woodward, CTV News, Saskatoon.
A number of Indigenous and Métis people have been recognized and honored in the country. That story when we come back. Welcome back. Several Indigenous individuals were honored with the King Charles III Coronation Medals yesterday. The award was given out by Governor General Mary Simon to recognize individuals who have made significant contributions to their communities. Simon awarded 52 medals at a ceremony at Rudolph Hall in Ottawa yesterday. The award has 5 categories, including a reconciliation category. It recognizes contributions to improving the lives and advancing the rights of Indigenous peoples. 13 people were recognized under that category, including Anishinaabe author, commentator, and professor Nigon Sinclair, Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand, and Inuk elder Aiga Adagutsiak. A total of 100 people will be recognized this year. Indigenous students that do not have the prerequisites to get into university are being offered another path to higher education. Concordia University in Montreal is offering an Indigenous bridging program. Following completion of it, students can then apply to certain undergraduate programs at Concordia, including in engineering, science, psychology, journalism, and commerce. Concordia is offering virtual information sessions for the program online. As well, it offers financial support, including bursaries. Out-of-province students can access the Canada Scholar Awards, and both First Nations and Inuit students from communities in Quebec are eligible for tuition waivers. The university says students will be supported before and after completion of the program.
We do have a coordinator that works with the student to identify where their needs are and what program they want to offer. And through that specialized one-on-one approach, we can really work with the students to transition into that specific program, such as journalism or engineering, the following year. And then after, once they get into the program, then we have the Otsahakta Student Center, which is an Indigenous Student Support Center for our students to provide that academic and cultural support that they will continue to have for the next 3 to 4 years.
The arrowed sash is a symbol of Métis culture seen everywhere at the annual Festival de Voyageurs in Winnipeg. And as CTV's Michelle Gerwing reports, the story of the sash is now moving in a new direction, weaving together 2 different Indigenous cultures on opposite sides of the equator.
So when a voyageur would get a contract, they would get a solid red sash, which was generally loomed in Europe.
The evolution of the ceinture fléchée goes a little like this, from solid red to a multicolored Assumption sash for those who could afford it, to a Coventry sash.
In the 1850s, they started making this pattern, which is really a copy of this other pattern, on looms in England, and now we had an affordable sash that was available to the masses.
Today, the arrow sash is Miguel Villefort's business, a journey he unknowingly started in the early 2000s when the Métis storyteller and student was pining after an authentic wool sash to complete his voyageur regalia.
I didn't think I could make a penny doing this. I just wanted like real sashes, because all you had was like polyester sashes, the only thing you could buy.
He says historically most sashes were made in Europe and shipped to Canada. His sashes are imported here too. They're made in Peru by Indigenous Quechua women.
The idea is like, a rising tide floats all boats. So if we do well, the Peruvians do well.
Most hired as single moms.
I'm just at the start of the new generation where I have three kids over 18 and they're all in university. There's 2 engineers and 1 nurse.
The partnership was first woven together 18 years ago when Villefort saw a woman hand-looming this traditional Peruvian sash at a street market. He couldn't help but notice the similarities. Since then, he's learned there's much more linking the 2 cultures together.
When I'm with those people, it just feels like you're with cousins.
The same familiar feeling he gets when he sees people wearing a sash proudly over their winter coats at Festival de Voyageurs.
You cannot look anywhere at the festival without seeing a sash. So I think it's just really cool. It creates a certain atmosphere that's hard to describe.
Michelle Gerwing, CTV News, Winnipeg.
On the ice in Boston, Canada shot back and sent a strong message at the Four Nations Championship as tensions remain high with our U.S. neighbors to the south regarding all that 51st state talk. Here's the celebration and the winning goal. Game was tied 2-2 heading into overtime, but Connor McDavid scored 9 minutes into OT, sealing the deal for Canada. With last night's victory, Canada has now solidified its spot as the best hockey nation in the world, with McDavid named Game MVP. Go Canada, go! We now want to tell you about this week's third web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, are you aware of the types of services covered under Jordan's Principle? Your answers are yes or no. Go to our website at www.aptnnews.ca to have your say. Swampy Cree multimedia artist Brooklyn Rudolph is up next to talk about her art and how she gives back to the community. That interview when we come back. Starting on the east, St. John's -3, Charlottetown -4. Cartwright sunny and -9, Happy Valley Goose Bay same temperature. Gaspé -2, Saquoday -8. Ottawa -9, Peterborough -11. Wawa -9, Thunder Bay -13. Partly cloudy in Thompson at -13, The Paw -15. Dauphin -13, Gimli -15. Yorkton -11, Swift Current -6. Meadow Lake -9, LaRange sun and -15. Peace River 5, Fort McMurray -7. 4 in Red Deer, Medicine Hat 4. 5 in Penticton, Kamloops 6. Fort Nelson -10, Dees Lake -2. -6 in Watson Lake, Mayo 0. -16 in Wrigley, Watee -16. Inuvik -27, Colville Lake -26. Chesterfield -27, Baker Lake -27. And Iqaluit -16, and Igloolik -25. Our next guest in studio is from the Pimachikamak Cree Nation in Manitoba. Swampy Cree mixed media artist Brooklyn Rudolph has been creating beautiful works of art for a number of years. They include paintings, mini decorative teepees, purses, ribbon skirts, medicine bags, and much more. Rudolph gifts a lot of her artwork to local shelters, and she advocates for Indigenous communities. She is also a certified veterinary assistant and certified healthcare aide, and has a passion to help people, animals, and the environment. Brooklyn Rudolph recently spoke to us in our Winnipeg studio. Here's that interview. Brooklyn, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you coming down to the studio. First, start us off with a first question. How did you get into art and what got you interested in it?
Yeah, so I started creating Indigenous art when I was 17 years old. I was so blessed to have been introduced to it by a teacher of mine, and since then, I'm 26 years old today, and I've been creating it for almost 10 years, and I just found a huge passion for using that to give back to the community in a meaningful way.
Right on. And can you talk about some of the ideas? Like, where do you get these ideas to come up with, I'm going to put my art on this item, and on this item? There's so many different varieties of different items you use.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a lot of my inspiration growing up from very powerful women throughout my life. I had a huge passion for creating teepees. That was one of my first Indigenous art pieces I was able to create, was a teepee. It represented home, community for me, and as I got older and I listened to knowledge keepers share the importance of these teepees and how they were connected to Indigenous women and women empowerment, that was a huge passion of mine. And also, the teachings that I learned from knowledge keepers and elders, and the environment and nature as well, just continuously inspired through everything around me.
Right on. And you also find ways to give back in the community. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was a young girl, I know this wasn't something that was just unique to me, but many Indigenous peoples have experienced poverty and homelessness. And, myself and my family going through that, it was out of the kindness of people's hearts that really uplifted me and my family in times of need. And, I grew up and really wanted to continue that and give back to others, and I donated my art to shelters and nonprofit organizations, and I'm very proud of that.
Do you have any big future projects coming up?
So right now I'm actually creating jingle dresses, healing dresses that will be donated to a family violence prevention shelter for Indigenous women and girls on their journey to healing and recovery. So I'm very proud of that one. Awesome.
And you're also very busy with your education. It looks like there's a lot of things going on there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm very proud to say that I've come from, my grandparents were residential school survivors, so they never had the opportunities to further their education and be celebrated for that. And I'm proud to say I'm 26 and I graduated 5 times. I've graduated high school and college as a medical assistant, a vet assistant, a healthcare aide, and university studying Indigenous environmental leadership. So it's not just for me, it's for our community and for my grandparents that never had those opportunities.
And for Indigenous youth watching this right now at home, what is your message to them who are, they have big dreams, but they don't know where to start?
Yeah, so I would say, follow your dreams. Don't let anyone ever try and stop you. I believe in you. I've come from a very challenging upbringing, but I never let that, stand in my way. And, I believe that Indigenous youth have so much strength and so much power within them. Follow your dreams, and, your creativities and gifts deserve to be shared with the world.
Awesome. And finally, Brooklyn, who is your main inspiration in life?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say I'm continuously inspired by so many people. Our community, I'm so inspired by them and the strength and resilience that us as Indigenous people have carried throughout so many generations. And yeah, that's a tough question. I'm so inspired by everyone I've met. They've offered some inspiration for me.
Awesome. Well, Brooklyn Rudolph, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
For I Love to Read Month, APTN is taking you to the roots of Indigenous languages. Each weekday, a knowledge carrier brings you a phrase of the day for our mother tongue teachings. Today also marks International Mother Language Day. On this day, Robert Kavituk shares words of advice to those wanting to learn your mother tongue.
Another mother tongue teaching, and we are here with somebody who speaks Inuktitut. I'll get you to introduce yourself.
Robert Cavito Yunga, Kansan ng Miyutaw Yunga. My name is Robert Cavito. I'm from Rinkinale. Try and use your language, your mother tongue language. But if you can't say it, as long as you understand it, start from there. That's how I was. Like when I was growing up, I was losing my language when I was in school because we only spoke in English. Okaw sivut atuin nakasukat taklabu. Okaw sivut atuin nakasukat taklabu. Let's try and use our language. So you use it's almost like throat singing. So that's what I try to teach the people that want to learn our language.
You're here in Winnipeg right now because you'll be doing the main commentary for the Hockey Night in Inuktitut. Tell me a little bit about how you feel about that.
I feel excited, this is a long time coming for myself and I'm going to use my dad, who's watched hockey all his life and he's 86 years old, but he doesn't understand English, like he can't really talk it, but now we can use our language and it's like talking to him, and I wish that I was behind him so I can see his face reaction.
And then just one more time, teach me how to say that. The word?
Ukaw sivut.
Ukaw sivut.
Atukat talabu. Tu.
La.
So it's like ha. Ta. Labut. So we use our throat a lot, right, when we're speaking.
It's been an honor to learn a little bit about your language from you today.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, as well as to all of our Hockey Night in Canada language speakers. To hear other phrases, check out our website at aptnnews.ca/mother tongue teachings. And that's your daytime newscast for this Friday, February 21st. Dennis Ward is back in a few hours for your evening newscast. Please join us then. From our APTN National News daytime staff, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next Monday. Excellent.